Joe Biden was on with Lawrence O'Donnell last night, and the question of what he would do if Medicare for All were passed and were put on his desk, how would he respond to that? I think this is something everyone needs to see.
Veto anything that delays providing the security and the certainty of health care being available now. If they got that through and by some miracle, and there was an epiphany that occurred, and some miracle occurred that said, okay, it's passed, then you got to look at the cost. I want to know, how did they find the $35 trillion? What is that doing? Is it going to significantly raise taxes on the middle class, which it will? What's going to happen? Look, my opposition isn't to the principle that you should have Medicare. I mean, everybody, healthcare should be a right in America. My opposition relates to whether or not, A, it's doable, two, what the cost is, and what the consequences for the rest of the budget are. How are you going to find $35 trillion over the next 10 years?
So look, many people took that video to mean that he is going to veto Medicare for All if it somehow passes with him as the figurehead of the Democratic Party. And some Biden defenders have responded by saying, well, that's not exactly what he's saying. And I say to them, him cloaking that whole thing in a whole bunch of right-wing talking points against Medicare for All does not make me feel more generous towards him on Medicare for All. It makes me feel more like he's likely to veto it. All that nonsense about, I want to make sure that it doesn't stop people from getting health care now. What formulation of Medicare for All takes away people's health insurance without immediately replacing it with something else? That's just a fantasy.
Well, this is what happens when the frontrunner in the Democratic race is someone who fetishizes compromise and working with Republicans and being a middle ground candidate. Again, he was to the right of Obama in 2008. He remains to the right of Obama. He remains in many respects to the right of Hillary Clinton. At least she pretended to care about passing progressive policy when Bernie Sanders was in the race and tried to at least give him some sort of crumbs when she was the nominee to adopt some of the principles. I mean, notably, she actually did adopt some really good principles of his when it came to college for all and education. So I will commend her there. Biden, I guarantee you, will not be interested in that, not at all. And that's just going to show you that clip shows you that exactly. To veto legislation, if we were able to get that monumental victory for working class people, for Americans in general, passed, and you were saying that you, as the head of the Democratic Party, as the figurehead, you would nix that legislation after the Senate and the House put in so much work into passing it, and that would guarantee health care for all. And again, going back on that right-wing talking point and saying that, the trillions of dollars that it would raise on the middle class and middle class tax increase, it is less than what they're paying in premiums and deductibles. Stop it, stop gaslighting us. Yeah. And again, I just feel like this whole week I've been black-pilled. I'm being I'm being gaslit all the time. Oh, he's the best nominee against Trump. Like, are you trying to get us to just close our eyes, close our ears, pretend like this is, 1972 and Biden is still this fiery politician? He can't talk. He's not a good communicator, and he's completely behind the times on everything where the general public is, not just where the Democratic Party is, but the electorate has become so shell-shocked and stricken with PTSD because of Donald Trump that we're really gonna revert back to this guy. It's a bad, bad, bad idea. I want Trump out of office more than anything. But wow, are we really gonna do this? I guess we'll see tonight.
I guess we'll see tonight. Little historical footnote for people looking back on this election. You have two candidates right now, one who supports Medicare for All, one who says that he might literally veto it if it somehow still passes, despite the fact that in every state that has voted so far, there is support for a government plan for health insurance to replace private insurance. It has won in every single state, except that a lot of those people then say, and that's why I'm supporting Joe Biden.
And by the way, if Biden's the nominee, they're going to blame Bernie Sanders supporters. Guarantee you, and no one will, and people will not admit that Bernie could have beat Donald Trump if he's not the nominee. Yeah. They won't admit it. Biden will, and the Democratic establishment will still blame the left. Fun times we're living in. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, Emma. I'm sure we've got your day off to a great start, so thank you.
Well, it's 1:40 here, so it's not necessarily a start, but I'm angry.
I always forget that you guys live in the future. Okay, maybe we'll see you during the coverage later on, but thank you again.
All right, thanks guys.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.